The one piece of advice that I have, when I'm talking with people about lifestyle changes and eating healthy and all that stuff, is that the small steps are the ones that really matter. And being able to achieve the tiniest thing and feel good about it is going to give you the motivation to go on and do the next thing.
Hey, I'm Scott Jones from eMeals, and you're listening to Real Food for Real Life. On this episode, I talk with Victoria Seaver of EatingWell magazine. This registered dietitian and nutritionist talks about the importance of taking small steps when it comes to improving your overall health. Victoria says it's the cumulative effect of these tiny, everyday efforts in your diet and exercise routine that produce real, long-lasting results. Now, before we get to the interview, I have a few housekeeping items. First, send us your questions and comments. We read all of them. And if you have a suggestion for a future guest or a potential topic, I'd love to know that too. You can find us on Twitter at eMeals using the hashtag AskEmeals. We also have an email address. It's community@emeals.com. If you don't already subscribe to our podcast, subscribe today. It's simple to do. You can find us at itunes.com/podcast/Real Food for Real Life. And while you're there, leave us a review. And finally, if you'd like more information on eMeals and our variety of meal plan food styles, you can find us at emeals.com. Try any of our meal plans free for 2 weeks, be it paleo, clean eating, or gluten-free. You can even have your shopping list sent directly to Walmart pickup at no charge, so your groceries are waiting for you. That's it. On with the show. Hi there, Victoria. How you doing today?
Hi, good, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well. Welcome to Real Food for Real Life. Day going okay?
Yeah, absolutely. We are finishing up here at EatingWell. So, good day so far, though, thankfully.
I know you guys are up in the Northeast corridor, so have you made it through a lot of this nasty weather?
We have. We had a nice big snowfall a couple of weeks ago, and I'm a skier, so I like it. So it helped to extend the ski season. But today was the first day that I wore like a short-sleeved shirt in the office, so it's definitely turning a corner.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, it's it's been a good winter, but I'm definitely ready for spring and some sunshine and not any more snow.
And some fresh vegetables and fruits, I'm sure, right?
Yes. Absolutely. I know we have a great farmer's market in town. We have great farmer's markets all over the state, but that is my favorite Saturday activity.
Fantastic. Well, this is a good way to kind of jump into my first question, particularly since your magazine is called Eating Well. I know a lot of our listeners and subscribers will kind of be coming out of that New Year's push where they've probably committed themselves to a new diet or, tightening their belts on some, way that they're eating or some health goal. But, with all of the diets, whether they're fads or proven or whatever, with all of that stuff that's out there, how do you guys as a team digest all that and then define what is eating well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great question. So there's definitely a lot out there for people to try. And as a brand and as a dietitian, my goal and our goal at Eating Well really is to provide our users with the information they need to then make their informed decisions. And even though there are definitely diets out there that we might not necessarily recommend from an evidence-based standpoint, for instance, we still want to provide our readers with the information they need to make their own informed decisions. And we always encourage everybody to do their research and understand what it is that they're trying, just to make sure that they're taking all things into account and really doing what's right for their body. That being said, I think that there's no one perfect diet for people. And so the exploration that people do on their own or with their physicians or with their registered dietitians, that's a really great way to figure out what works for different people. So we try our best to cultivate that sense of support from the content that we write and the meal plans that we do, the recipes that we create. We're trying to support people in whatever way we can while still providing that evidence-based information that they need to stay healthy and do what's right for their body.
Yeah, yeah. And so just from a high level, what kinds of things have you seen, in the last year that, in terms of keywords that are popular or diets that seem to be popular that your readers are asking for more information about or clarity about that you see continuing into 2018?
Yeah. So, oh my gosh, in big shining lights, it's vegan. Everybody wants to eat vegan and a plant-based diet, which is great because we can all eat more vegetables and fruits, that's for sure. So vegan has been at the top of the list for sure. We have seen consistent interest in things like weight loss, the Mediterranean diet, and even kind of ones that aren't quite as exciting or sexy per se.
Right.
Things like the DASH diet for high blood pressure.
Yeah.
So those are pretty consistent. And then we also see some of the more trendy diets like low-carb diets like Whole30 or Paleo. And then more recently, there's been a huge spike in the ketogenic diet, interest in that one.
Right, right. Well, I want to touch on many of those, but would you do me a favor? I may be the only one in the listening audience that doesn't know this. Can you tell me a little bit more about the DASH diet? Because I see that every year in that U.S. News and World Report list of diets. It's always right at the top as one of the best diets. So tell me a little bit about that. What does DASH stand for?
Sure. Absolutely. So the DASH diet is dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And the goal of the diet is to help people lower their blood pressure. High blood pressure is a pretty chronic condition in most of the United States, and a lot of people don't know that they even have high blood pressure, as it's silent until it gets to the point where your body's showing signs of chronic high blood pressure and more involved heart issues. But the goal of the DASH diet, which you mentioned, has been one of the top-rated diets for years and years. I think it's number 8, or it's on its 8th year of being the top diet from a science-based standpoint and effectiveness standpoint. And the goal really is to eat more of a Mediterranean style, so lots of fruits and veggies, whole grains, working with fresh herbs and spices rather than relying primarily on salt for flavor.
Right.
Healthy fats like olive oil and nuts and seeds and all those good things. So it's really a focus on those healthy whole foods rather than, eliminating any one food group in particular.
Right, right. Well, that opens the door, and I'm going to step right through it. I know that the word on the street is one of the 3 ingredients that you cannot live without is salt. I know that from your personal profile. You mentioned cilantro and fresh figs, and salt being the other. So as someone who understands how salt can be used effectively when used in moderation to heighten flavor, and also as an RD, how do you walk that kind of fine line when you're talking to readers or creating recipes for them where they can judiciously use salt, but also use it effectively? Because I guess if you were coming to eating well and let's say you had high blood pressure or other issues around hypertension and your doctor said lower your sodium, you may not know. I mean, I guess you could strike out, highly processed foods, but, salt makes food taste better. So how do you handle that?
Yeah, absolutely. So salt is one of my favorite ingredients. It does wonders in really taking flavors of a dish to the next level. So it's really enhancing the natural flavors of that dish already. And it's gotten such a bad rap, but it's primarily because salt is just rampant in processed foods, and it's there not only for flavoring, but also for preservation. So extending the shelf life of foods. And so the majority of excess salt in our diet comes from those processed foods. But if we're focusing on more of a whole foods-based diet with lots of fresh fruits and vegetables and, even some canned and prepared things that you're just more aware of opting for a low salt or no salt added chickpeas, for instance, it's totally okay and healthy
Right.
to be adding salt on your own. Like I said, it can really elevate a dish and make it exciting with just a little sprinkle. But
Yep.
I think the key there is just using that little sprinkle and then relying on things like fresh herbs and spices, primarily for the flavor of your dish, and just using salt to bring out some of those flavors.
So, if you think about using, kosher salt or, regular iodized salt, like how much sodium is in a teaspoon of salt?
So a teaspoon is actually your total sodium needs for the day. So it's not much at all. Yes,
No, that's
I know.
not. Oh, goodness.
It's not much at all. Yeah, and that is that's not even taking into consideration people that need to be on low sodium diet. So it's even less in that case.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. But
so you really do need to be strategic.
You do, yeah. And if it's something that you are was prescribed by your doctor, a low salt diet, definitely being aware. And thankfully, on all of the packaged foods that we consume, we can see the total amount of sodium in that. And there's some tricks for determining if a product's high in sodium or low in sodium.
What are those?
And
what are your
so this
favorites?
is my favorite go-to tip for reading labels is if you look at the percent daily value on the label there, we always say that 5% is considered low and 20% is considered high. So for things like saturated fat or sodium or added sugars, we want to be closer to that lower end, that 5%. Whereas things for the vitamins that are listed, like vitamin A and vitamin C, the more of those we can get, the better.
I see. Okay, well, that's a good strategy. I like that. I just have to get my head around 1 teaspoon of salt. And I guess I can just think about breaking that up into little eighths of teaspoons.
A little pinch. But, that being said, too, if you are not only eating a healthy diet but have a healthy lifestyle and you're exercising, those are things, too, that can help balance blood pressure. And if your blood pressure is in a normal range, it's not something that you necessarily have to focus on day in and day out. But just some tips for salt consumption.
Oh, that's perfect. Now, bouncing back to vegan, we have seen the same just exploding interest in a vegan diet. We've had a vegetarian meal plan here for several years. It's been very popular, but we saw over the last 18 months that more and more folks were asking for a dedicated vegan plan. So we launched a vegan meal plan in the fall of 2017. But one thing that we really had to double down on for our on-staff food expert who writes that plan was really making sure that there was the right balance of protein in that diet. And that leads me to the question I want to ask, because I kind of feel like I see this maybe in other diets that are not that, the vegan diet is a fad diet, but things that are really out there as buzzwords. Like I think about vegan and the keto diet. I think sometimes people get into those diets without really understanding getting the right mix of things, so they're still eating balanced and not just restricting X and Y from their diet. So what are the kinds of things that you're doing on your end to help coach people to make sure that if they do dive into one of those diets, especially if it's new to them, that they're still getting the right balance of nutrition to make sure that their body's functioning right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's super important. And I think whenever anybody's starting a new diet, it's easy to just focus on, okay, this diet's suggesting that I take out X, X, and X. And, not everybody knows that by taking out those certain foods, you're going to be missing out on really important nutrients. So, for instance, when it comes to the vegan diet, if you're taking out those animal products like chicken, beef, dairy, those things that contain protein, you're going to need to replace that, right? And so protein is a really important factor in our body, not only just for maintaining muscle mass and cellular function, but just satiation on a daily basis.
Right.
Protein digests more slowly, so it helps you to feel fuller for longer and satisfied, which makes, eating in general, and especially if you're trying to lose weight, that protein makes it a lot easier to do that and get through to the next meal. So we always, when we're making our meal plans, for instance, or when we're writing content specific for diets, we're always saying, okay, be aware that by doing this, you could fall short on these certain nutrients, and we need to find ways to add foods that have those nutrients back in so that you're not too low, for instance.
Right, sure.
So we're always, pushing the tofu or the beans or any kind of vegan protein that we can, just to make sure that we're hitting the daily limits that we know to be the limits for a healthy diet.
Yeah, and I would also assume like the right combinations of foods to create those complete proteins or other essential nutrients that you might need, just in addition to, I know obviously I think protein is probably the one that you're most concerned about, but I guess there might be other essential nutrients that that are in someone who's an omnivore that might, if you were a complete vegan, might be missing as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you read different forums online, and the truth is that there are certain foods that can help replace those, but you may need to eat a lot of it in order to get that same level that you would had you not been excluding that certain food group. So vitamin B12 is a big one with vegan diets.
That's right. I hear a lot about that.
B12. Yeah. So you get that primarily from animal products, and while things like molasses, for instance, nutritionally, they do contain some B12, but you need to eat a lot of it to get the level that you need. And then calcium's a big one too. While there are, the dark leafy greens can give us some calcium, it is really challenging to meet our daily calcium needs without dairy products.
Right.
So these are things that we really encourage people to be aware of, and if they're not meeting their daily nutrient needs, that's when the next step of considering supplementation would be a good idea, just to make sure you're covering all your bases.
Yeah, that's important, and I appreciate you saying that. So, going back to the whole notion of eating well, the last few podcast guests that I've had on have all mentioned this kind of new definition. I guess it's not new, actually. It's just they're kind of doubling down on the whole balanced lifestyle. So eating being part of that, but whether it's getting the right amount of sleep, getting the right amount of exercise. I mean, what is it? What are kind of the things that you see as, someone who's busy but still knows about nutrition and a healthy lifestyle? Like, what are some of your keys to having that right kind of balance? I mean, are you incorporating a good bit of fitness into that, or just unstructured downtime? Like, what are you doing to achieve that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's, when it comes to following a healthy lifestyle, it's not just one thing. There's definitely different pillars that are part of a healthy lifestyle. So regular exercise for sure. And it can be tough. I know for sure the cold winters in Vermont, it's not the most exciting thing to get up in the pitch black and go exercise. But definitely making it a priority, and just movement in general on a daily basis, whether that means taking a 15-minute walk after lunch or longer if you can. Any kind of movement is better than no movement. And whether it's 5 minutes or 30 minutes or whatever you can fit in, I think it's key. And it not only helps your health, it makes you feel better, which could make you sleep better, which could encourage you to continue with those healthy habits and, eat a healthy breakfast and whatever the case may be. And definitely the downtime and shutting off is important just for your, I would think, just your mental health in general. Getting those 8 hours of sleep. And I know it's not always possible given your circumstances, whether it's kids or a busy schedule or whatever the case may be. But those pillars, sleep, exercise, health, they all play a part. And if one's not as strong, you could end up falling flat in some of those pillars of health. So definitely an all-around balance of a healthy lifestyle and healthy eating is ideal for sure.
Yeah, I can tell you personally, this time change has every year about this time, I feel like I'm just running out of gas with with it getting dark so early, especially being in the central time zone. I feel like, it gets dark here early, really early. But just having that little extra bit of sunshine at the end of the day and, kind of helps me go to the gym or just go take the dog for a walk when I get home. There's like the promise of this extra bit of time that I can use just to relax a little bit. And I guess I'm just one of those people who responds to sunlight anyway, or daylight, because sometimes in the winter I can feel like I come to work when it's dark and I go home when it's dark. And, it's like I'm in Vegas all the time. There's just the light in the office and the light in the house. So to me, that's a game changer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And vitamin D is definitely, I can't recall the exact line of latitude or whatever,
right,
where, you're not getting enough sun, even in the height of summer sort of thing, to get all the vitamin D that you need in a day. So it's amazing just how a lack of sunshine and vitamin D can really impact so many things in your life, and especially the exercise and sleep schedules and all that can be challenging. So I think people are constantly shifting their plan of action to just have things fit better into where they are in their life. And so it's a game of readjusting and getting used to something and then that falling through, but having the just being encouraged to know that not everything is going to go on the best path at all times, and people fall off the wagon and have to readjust, and that's all part of life. And even though it can definitely shake things up, it's normal. And the most important part is getting back up and slowly getting back to a place where you're feeling comfortable with your health and your eating and whatever it may be.
Victoria, that's really interesting that you say that. And I'm sure many listeners will be encouraged by that because, again, another one of those reoccurring themes that I've heard in the last few guests, which is especially around this end of the year, new year, focus on health, and you're just being bombarded by, resolution in capital letters, is that, just try and stay focused on the fact that it's about an ongoing lifestyle. Like it's not just something you do for a few months. So give yourself the permission to fall off the wagon, or let's say you didn't go work out and you wanted to, or you ate something that you weren't, you didn't want to eat, but it was wonderful. It's like, it's not the end of the world. It's about, the long game and not the, not the short game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think the challenge that a lot of people face when they're following a particular diet, or they have a goal of, a 10-pound weight loss in their mind, is that they often set up a lot of rules and restrictions and don't give themselves as much leeway as they deserve, right? So making changes of any kind, it's not easy. It's changing habits that you may have developed over the course of your whole life.
Yeah.
Asking yourself to make huge changes by a certain time, and if you don't do it, you fail. That really sets you up for failure, to be honest, because
absolutely,
you're just setting yourself up with these goals that might not be the most achievable. And I think the one piece of advice that I have, when I'm talking with people about lifestyle changes and eating healthy and all that stuff, is that the small steps are the ones that really matter. And being able to achieve the tiniest thing and feel good about it is going to give you the motivation to go on and do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And, to be honest, the busy life that I lead and the busy life I know so many people out there lead, the reality is those small things probably will seem like a whole lot at the time, but, in between jobs and families and everything else that's going on, just setting that one small thing, that one small goal to work on and achieve before stepping up to the next thing, I think is a great strategy for being successful in making these health changes. Yeah,
I would agree. And again, fantastic piece of advice. And for many of those of us who have very strict goals for ourselves, that internal voice, the way that we talk to ourselves, can sometimes be pretty brutal. And we would never talk to our best friends or our family that way. But the kind of pressure we can put on ourselves is can just be brutal. So I guess just giving yourself a break every once in a while and just focusing on the good things that you've done. Those 12, 14, 15 positive steps in the right direction rather than the one, step that you didn't want to take by missing a workout or eating the wrong food or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's about kind of letting it happen and then putting it in a balloon and letting it fly away and then not be with you anymore,
that.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
an
that.
analogy. Oh my gosh, my mom always used that whenever
Very
we got
nice.
mad. Just put it in a balloon and let it float away.
Okay.
Which as a kid I hated, but now I totally can relate to it. But yeah, it's definitely about just being in the moment and taking things as they come, but doing our best to not hold on to those negative things and really focusing on the positive. I think.
Absolutely.
Positive talk and positive reaffirmation. Positive affirmation is really the motivation and the fuel that's going to continue to drive people forward and to meeting their goals.
I like that. So you've mentioned the word busy several times in our conversation already. And I know you're busy, Victoria. I know that your readers are busy. I sure know that our subscribers are busy, which is why having a plan for dinner is such an important thing. But then there are those times when you're just slammed and even the best plan isn't going to cut it. So on those nights when, Victoria is just out of gas and you need something, like what's your go-to healthy dinner or other, that plus like some strategies for those folks out there that, just can't think, another second about anything. What are some of your go-to tips for continuing to, put together a real healthy dinner?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because a lot of the times our traffic on recipes is the highest at about 4:30 when everybody's thinking, okay, oh gosh, I got to get home and I got to figure out dinner.
Yeah.
And it's the truth. And of course, planning in advance is always great, and having a meal plan in place can really help sort out some of those last minute stressors. But my go-to is going to be eggs or omelets. A healthy omelet whipped together, throw whatever odds and ends I have in the fridge. That's a great healthy dinner that is just foolproof. It's reliable. Throw a piece of toast on there.
Yep.
So that's one of my favorite go-to dinners. And then I, in particular, really believe in pantry staples. I'm one of those people that if I see canned tomatoes on sale, I'm going to buy 5 things of canned tomatoes if I can and keep them in my pantry for, a quick sauce or a quick soup or whatever I can think of. So kind of setting yourself up to make healthy eating easy down the road is a great way to help ensure that you're still getting a nutritious dinner on the table without having to go to the grocery store. So that could be like those canned tomatoes I mentioned, or canned beans, dried whole wheat pasta, frozen veggies, these things that can really, really come in handy when you're in a pinch. Just, setting yourself up for those healthy options to be available. Yeah,
I'm kind of addicted to those microwavable pouches of like whole grains. And I mean, in 90 seconds, it's blazing hot, and you can, like you said, you can put cans of tomatoes, beans, if you have leftover rotisserie chicken or something, you can, in a couple of minutes, you can have something where you're kind of throwing it together. But to your point, which is of critical importance, you need to keep those things on hand because, and take advantage of those times when they're on sale, because that's why you have that pantry, make sure you have, you're not just buying one can, get a few cans. So, it's there. So when you're not thinking about it, you've already prepared ahead. Because it's amazing the kinds of things that we can eat when there's nothing on hand, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. I mean, it's so easy to pick up the phone and call takeout, but you can honestly make a 15-minute pantry dinner in less time it takes to order and wait for that takeout to arrive. So it does obviously take a little bit more effort and a little bit more thought, which I can totally I can totally relate to. At the end of certain days, I don't even have the energy to think of what to do with canned tomatoes and beans and rice or whatever it may be. But that's why we have, great resources like eMeals and EatingWell to be your go-to for, I have these ingredients, what can I do in 15 minutes?
Exactly.
So, we're really trying to provide, we are consumers of EatingWell as well, right? So we try our best to put ourselves in the shoes of the readers, which most of the time it's also where we fall in life.
That's right.
And what we can do to provide the information and content that they need to make life easier and healthy eating easy.
Well, man, this is all good stuff, Victoria. Thank you. I really appreciate you being on the podcast today, and have really enjoyed getting your thoughts on what constitutes a healthy lifestyle and what eating well means, and getting some of those wonderful tips. I guess I'm going to immediately go and start measuring out my 1 teaspoon of salt for the next couple of days.
Oh no! If anything, don't take away that.
No, I won't.
I know,
but it's always good to remember.
Right, I know. Unfortunately, some of the the healthy eating tips are not the most exciting or ones that we want to. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah. Well, thanks again. I really appreciate it, and hope you have a great, wonderful rest of the day, and hopefully it'll begin to warm up and you'll see some blooming spring flowers up there in your neck of the woods soon.
Yeah. Great. Well, it was so nice to talk to you. Thanks so much for having me on.
You've been listening to Real Food for Real Life. Subscribe today and you'll never miss another episode. You'll also have access to past episodes with terrific guests ranging from cookbook authors to paleo experts, clean eating experts to fitness pros. You can find us at itunes.com/podcast/Real Food for Real Life. And when you subscribe, be sure to leave us a review. You can also find us on other popular podcast apps like Stitcher and Google Play Music. If you have questions about this episode or our podcast, feel free to email me at community@emeals.com, or you can tweet them to me at emeals using the hashtag #AskEmeals. To get more information on eMeals and our variety of meal plans, visit us at emeals.com. Until next time, I'm Scott Jones. Thanks for listening.